Welcome to TV on TV. I'm State Representative Tommy Vitolo. You're watching Brookline Interactive Group. Today is Thursday, March 24th. And like every week, we got a great show for you today. We're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to show some pre-recorded, very brief statements by a number of the town-wide candidates for office on Tuesday, May 3rd. And then I'm going to have a conversation with League of Women Voters Vice President Ernie Frey, who will walk us through all of the new precinct boundaries and their voting locations. But first, the news. In diplomatic push for a stronger international response to Russia, President Joe Biden is traveling to Europe today to urge NATO allies to pose stricter sanctions on Russian lawmakers. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson continues her Senate confirmation process to become the next member of the United States Supreme Court. The federal government has depleted funds required to purchase the fourth dose of the coronavirus vaccine for all Americans. Completing the purchase would require that Congress pass a $15 billion funding package that is currently stalled. After releasing positive results from a clinical trial, Moderna is seeking emergency authorization for the vaccine for children under 6. The recently emerged COVID-19 variant BA.2 now accounts for more than half of cases in New England. In Massachusetts, cases are up 54% since last week. A state legislative commission tasked with investigating facial recognition technology has released recommendations that would deeply restrict the use of this technology by law enforcement officers. After decades of planning, the Union Square Green Line extension opened up on Monday. Yours truly was there, and I think see the Union Square sign in the background. The Brookline tab will now cease print publication and will only be available to be accessed online. This starts in May. And finally, the Brookline Public Schools reduced their annual budget request by $1.6 million to help close a budget gap. And now, without further ado, again, we're going to start with some pre-recorded brief statements by candidates for townwide office, all of whom are running unopposed. And then we're going to cut to an interview earlier today with Ernie Frey, Vice President of the League of Women Voters, to work through all of the precinct locations and voting locations. Thanks for watching and stay tuned. Hi, my name is Representative Tommy Vitolo, and I'm a proud Democrat running to become Brookline's next state representative. You call me anytime, you send me an email anytime. I will get back to you just as soon as I can with whatever help I can offer.
Brookline Town Meeting members passed it overwhelmingly, a bylaw that bans oil and gas piping in future construction projects.
We know we need significant emissions reductions from our built environment to meet our climate goals. We're in a hole. What this bill does is takes away the shovel. Let's stop making it worse.
Beacon Hill state lawmakers are trying to take a major step to address climate change here in Massachusetts.
This bill serves as a model for other legislative bodies, not just on what components are necessary to drive emissions to net zero by 2050, but in how to bring so many people together in proposing a solution. Legislating is about teamwork. It's about building relationships. It's about finding ways to connect with people with whom you don't completely agree with, to move forward and build something.
For the T riders that depend on the train that runs through Coolidge Corner, this will be a disruption.
99 cents for 18 years. 18 years. And what the good people of Arizona Iced Tea figured out is if you don't improve the quality of the tea, you don't raise the price of the tea. Social and economic justice is so important to me, and environmental justice is a critical component. Evokes the great leader's inspiration and offers a message of public service and social justice that will provide an ongoing expression of Brookline's commitment to racial equality. Thank you to my friends, neighbors, and so many who helped me earn the trust of the residents of Brookline. I work hard every day to strengthen our bond. So folks, as I said, we've got Ernie Frey, the vice president of the Brookline League of Women Voters. And what he's going to do with us is walk through redistricting and all of those new districts so we can make sure that everybody goes to the right place to vote and knows just exactly what their new precinct looks like. Ernie, give us like the 1-minute version on re-precincting. Why did it happen? How did it happen? What's going on?
Well, re-precincting is required every 10 years because based on the census, and there is a committee appointed by the select board who decides what the new precinct boundaries are if they have to be adjusted. And the committee decided that 15 of the former 16 precincts required adjustment based on population shifts, and they added a precinct 17, which is close to Coolidge Corner, to anticipate further growth, future growth in that area of the town.
And of course, that committee ultimately makes a recommendation to the select board, and technically it's the select board who has to accept or edit the committees, and they did. And so many folks are still in the same precinct with the same voting location, but many are not. So what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to actually bring up a map and we're going to go through each precinct so that we can understand exactly how this affects each and every one of us. And so we're going to bring up that map right now and let's see what happens. So this is a map of Brookline. Looks familiar, right? North is not due north, but it's the best way to fit it on the screen. And you can see these are all 17 precincts numbered 1 through 16, north to south, and then the new 17 right in Coolidge Corner, as Ernie described. And so let's start at precinct 1, which, as you can see, is nearest Kenmore Square. We're going to zoom in a little bit. As you can see, it's bounded by Com Ave in the north and the town line in the east, and Muddy River roughly to the south. And on the west, Kent Street, St. Paul Street, Amory Street. Precinct 1's a little smaller than it used to be. Ernie, what is voting like in precinct 1?
Well, the voters will go to the Wheelock College, same place that precinct 1 people have voted before. So if you were and are still in precinct 1, you go to the same place.
Easy peasy. Let's go to precinct 2. Precinct 2 is now shaped a little bit differently than it used to be. It used to come all the way to Beacon Street, and now it remains closer to Com and goes all the way to Packard's Corner. And so when we zoom in a little bit, we can see this is that neighborhood, Amory Street on the east and Babcock Street on the west, predominantly, Com on the north. And then on the south, it's as far south as Brown Street. Where do folks in precinct 2 vote?
They will go to the Ridley School, which was formerly Devotion, and they'll enter on the the Stedman side of that school.
And so that's not too far. Probably the best way to get there is to walk. There's not a great mass transportation option, but it's not very far at all. It's maybe 1,000, 1,500 feet. Precinct 3 is still roughly in the same place it used to be. It's kind of along the Muddy River, just south of Precinct 1. And if we zoom in, we can see it is also very similarly shaped to what it used to be. However, it now no longer extends as far to the west, right? So Beacon Street to the north, and then to the south, it's kind of like Kent Street, Aspinwall, Muddy River on the east, and St. Paul Street on the west. And same voting location or what?
No, they have moved. They used to be at the Ridley School, but the Morse Apartments have finished their construction there sufficiently so that the voting location can return to 90 Longwood Avenue.
That's right. It used to be at 90 Longwood Avenue and it had moved to Ridley and now it's back. And so folks have got to make sure they're heading to the right place. Precinct 4 is not quite shaped the same way it used to be. Precinct 4 did used to extend south of Route 9 as it does now, but it didn't extend nearly as far to the west. So let's take a closer look. We can see Precinct 4 now is sort of both sides of Route 9, Boylston Street, and then around the corner to Brookline Ave. What do we know about Precinct 4's voting?
Well, Precinct 4 used to vote at the town hall, but the town hall is no longer a polling location. So the Precinct 4 people will vote in Lincoln School, the old Lincoln School gymnasium, which actually is, within the precinct.
And it's worth noting that Precinct 4, one of the philosophies behind drawing Precinct 4 as it is drawn, was to draw a majority minority precinct. And I don't know if they quite got there, but it was really close to 50% plus or minus. And while that's not required by law at the local level, there is a expectation of that at the state and federal level. And so the precincting committee embraced that idea. And we see that manifesting itself here. Precinct 5 is roughly where Precinct 5 used to be, although it does not include both sides of Walnut Street like it used to. And we can see a little closer here. What about Precinct 5, bounded by the Muddy River and the town line on the sort of the south, and Walnut, Irving, Allerton, Route 9 on the north? What does Precinct 5 vote?
Precinct 5 will vote where they have before, if you remained in Precinct 5. That's the new Lincoln School on Kennard Road. And so that's where that is. No change there for the precinct at least.
Easy peasy. Let's move on to Precinct 6 if we can. Let's see here. There we go. Precinct 6 remains sort of Brookline Village, Brookline High School part of town, just north of Route 9 in the village area, but it did change shape somewhat considerably. You can see that it no longer includes kind of Gardner, Hancock, Winthrop, and it now includes much more on the other side of Harvard Street on the sort of the eastern or the northeastern side. And but it looks like same old, right?
It's the same place that is voted, was voted in previous elections. Yeah, that's where it is.
Schluntz Gym at 115 Greeno.
Yes.
And of course, during COVID, there were sometimes 3 or maybe even 4 precincts who were voting at the same location, but I think they're now spreading them back out a little bit. Is that right?
Yeah, this one, the last election, there were 3 precincts voting at the high school. For this election, there is only 1, just Precinct 6.
Precinct 6 has a high turnout, and I'm sure that they'll keep the election workers busy all on their own.
Yes,
Precinct 7 remains in the same location it had been, sort of between Harvard and Park, roughly between Coolidge Corner and Brookline Village. It's very small in land area, even though it has a pretty significant size park in it because the housing is rather dense. And Ernie, I think you live in Precinct 7, don't you?
I do. And the change in Precinct 7, we lost 2 blocks. But because there was a change, it requires all 15 precinct people to be reelected, all slots.
And
so they will vote in O'Shea House on Park Street, 61 Park, which is different than the last election. Last election was at the high school. This time it's back to its old location.
And Precinct 8 is similar to how it used to be shaped, although not quite the same. Some folks who used to live in 8 are now in 2, and some folks maybe who used to live in 8 are now in 17, but we can see it's roughly at Packard's Corner, adjacent to Packard's Corner. And if we zoom in a little bit, we can see it includes FRR, bounded roughly by Coolidge Street on one side and Harvard on another. What do you think?
And they are voting at Ridley School as well. They're joining Precinct 2 in that task.
And that's also the Stedman Street entrance?
Stedman Street entrance, yep. When you go in the door, you'll be diverted to which precinct you should be going to.
Perfect. Let's move on to Precinct 9, which is adjacent to Precinct 8 and had some change, but not very much. It's a very similar shape to how it used to be.
Yes.
We can see it gets a little bit of that block between Mason Terrace and Winchester Street. I think that's new for Precinct 9. And but otherwise, roughly the same shape, bounded by the Boston town line on one side and Beacon on the other, Harvard and Winchester for the most part.
That's right. And they will vote at the senior center in Winchester Street, 93 Winchester Street, where they have voted in the past.
So we move on to Precinct 10. Precinct 10 has the same sort of center that it has, sort of around Griggs and the west side of Park, but it no longer extends along Beacon. It is more compact than it used to be. It also extends south of Washington Street for the first time. And so there are plenty of folks who used to live in 10 who don't anymore, and plenty of folks who now live in 10, which means a lot of folks have got to go to vote somewhere they hadn't voted in the past. And where is that?
That is the Driscoll School, the new gymnasium, the Washington Street entrance, which is actually in Precinct 11, but it's close to 10, as close as they could get it.
And my house got switched from 6 to 10. 10 years ago, it had been switched from 12 to 6. And so, always exciting where I live. I haven't lived there that long, but that's the history anyway. Precinct 11 is almost unchanged. Same great place, same great channel. But there is a slight change, and that is that, again, that block between Winchester and Mason that used to be in 11 is now in 9. And so that means they changed, and all 15 are going to run, and they're going to ask for your vote where?
At the Driscoll School again. 10 and 11 are going to be in the same building, the new gymnasium, and that's the entrances on Washington Street.
Perfect.
So,
And during construction, do we know if the Westbourne Terrace entrance will be open? In the past, it has been, but maybe during construction, it may not be.
It's possible. Yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to work, but the voters who need to go there will be told, and if we have other information, we can pass that on to.
And certainly be safe as you walk there or as you look to park nearby. Double precinct, active school, several active construction sites. We want to be safe when we're there. Precinct 12 is still Aspinwall Hill, although it has changed shape a little bit. Some of Precinct 12 is now Precinct 10, for example. But it looks like the folks who are still in 12 are still voting in the same place.
They are voting in Runkle School, the gymnasium, 50 Druce Street is the entrance, as it has been for many years prior.
And Precinct 13, for folks paying attention, may notice that it is shaped somewhat differently. The southern portion is now Precinct 14, and it picked up some of Precinct 14 in the northern portion on the other side of Beacon Street. I'll show you over here. You can see that the southern boundary is now Reservoir Road. It used to extend all the way down to that point that is now formed by Precinct 14, and it picked up some of the small in land area but large in population parcels on the south side of Beacon Street near Regent Circle and Tappan Street. Where are they voting?
They are also voting in Runkle School. Again, 12 and 13 have voted in Runkle School in the gymnasium for quite a number of years, but the people who have obviously moved into Precinct 13 may be voting, instead of going left where they used to go left in the gymnasium, they may be going right.
Well, it's interesting. There are some folks now in 13 who used to live in 14, and they used to have to hoof it down south to go vote. And now they can vote much, much closer. So those folks, again, on Beacon Street, on the south side near Regent Circle. They used to walk right past Runkle School, and they kept on walking down to the Baker School to vote. But now they get to go much, much closer, much more convenient for them. And so that's a good improvement for those folks, for those neighbors. Precinct 14, we can see, is one of our larger land area precincts, and it has changed. Again, it gave up a little bit of land up nearest Washington Square, and it picked up a substantial amount of less densely populated land near the Newton line, south of Chestnut Hill Reservoir. So let's take a closer look. We can see it is Middlesex Road and kind of that line with Newton. Some of the boundaries, Boylston Street. Then it's got some of these, quiet residential streets running around it, forming this funky shape. And where do they vote?
They vote at the Heath School, which is physically located in Precinct 13. So the people who are on the west side, down toward Cottage Street and Dudley Street, they will be going across town to get.
I think that's not quite right. I think that where Heath School is written in Precinct 13. But if we look, we can see that the school itself is sort of near Reservoir Road and.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. You're right.
It is in 14.
Yeah, it is in 14. Yeah, it's more centrally located in the precinct.
And Precinct 14 has been voting in 14, but now it's sort of a little more centered around the school. So that's true. That's I think a benefit.
Thank you. Yeah, that's good.
Precinct 15 is by land area the largest precinct in town. It's got 27 holes of golf in it. That's not true. It has 45 holes of golf in it, and some other wonderful parkland as well. And so let's zoom in a little bit. The southern boundary with 15 is unchanged because Precinct 16 was unchanged, but the northern boundary changed a little bit. And so again, all 15 folks will run. And where are they going to run from?
They're going to be those people will be voting at the fire station in the rear, and I believe that's where they have voted before. Not the last election, but before then, they.
That's right. That's right. They have a history of voting there. Precinct 16 used to be the last and not least precinct. Now it is the not last and not least precinct. Precinct 16 is interesting. It's the only precinct whose boundaries did not change, and therefore it is the only precinct where there are 5 rather than 15 town meeting seats up, although in fact there are 6 because there's a special election for a vacancy. Nevertheless, Precinct 16, same bat channel, right?
Yeah, they voted the Putterham Branch Library on West Roxbury Parkway, and they've been there for a while.
And because the boundary didn't change, if you've been voting there, you still vote there. If you haven't been voting there, you probably don't vote there. But now we're going to actually jump right back to Coolidge Corner. Precinct 17 was added right to Coolidge Corner, and rather than renumber all the precincts, they just went ahead and kept 17 where it lied. And so here we are right in the middle of Coolidge Corner. We're going to zoom in a little bit. You can see Harvard and Beacon in the district there. And Precinct 17 is a brand new precinct made up of pieces of Precinct 3 and 7 and 8 and 2. And so that's exciting times over there. And where do they vote?
They vote at the Coolidge Corner Library, which was the former voting location for Precinct 2 people on Pleasant Street. And so for many people who used to be in Precinct 2 that were transferred to Precinct 17, they go to the same place.
Well, Ernie, I want to thank you for walking us through this. Lots of new details with the voting. Many people vote in the same place, but many people vote in a new place. And so we're going to ask voters, do your homework, make sure you know. I know the town clerk will send out a letter, but really,
I think
have a plan for voting day and make sure you go to the right place.
Yeah, the Secretary of State has a website where you can decide where you are, where you put in your address, and it will tell you where your voting location is. And I used it this morning. It's pretty nifty.
And when is all this voting going to happen?
This voting is going to be on May 3rd. Polls will open at 7 o'clock and be open until 8 o'clock.
And as long as you're in line by 8 p.m., you will be permitted to vote on Tuesday, May 3rd. Ernie,
correct.
thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate all the work that the League of Women Voters does in keeping voters informed about their rights, about elections, about candidates. It's really important work, and so grateful for the work that you do. And hey, thanks for appearing on Brookline Interactive Group, the home of TV on TV. Folks, we'll see you next week.